ankle right on this. Whatever. Anyway, hiya Toonheads, Dan the Toonkeeper here, and welcome back to another episode of Toon Chest. On today's episode, we're finally going to touch upon Paramount's famous studios, and that's the actual name of the studio. Specifically, we're going to be looking at a 1949 released cartoon called Hep Cat Symphony. So a couple Toon Chest videos ago, I covered a 1936 Popeye short called Brotherly Love, and leading into that short, I basically shared my thoughts and what I knew about the Fleischer cartoons growing up. And to keep a long story short, or rather, to avoid repeating everything I said in my previous video here, I was not exposed to the best of what the Fleischers had to offer. Now, as testament to how shitty of a job NTA did in making sure that the Paramount cartoon copyrights that they own were renewed. Actually, I shouldn't even say shitty job, because that would imply that there was effort. So let me reword that. As testament to how NTA did not give a shit of any of the Paramount cartoons that they own, except for the pre-mid-1934 Betty Boops. As a result, not just the Fleischer cartoons fell into public domain, as I've explained before, but also the vast majority of famous studio shorts that they owned in their early years, specifically the 1942 to September 1950 famous studio shorts, all owned by NTA, or were owned until, again, the vast majority of the cartoons in that library fell into public domain. And before anyone mentions, yes, Popeye cartoons were also part of my viewing as well on these public domain tapes. But unfortunately, the Popeye cartoons that United Artists mostly failed to renew were the 1950s ones. Yeah, that was my first exposure to Popeye growing up, again, very unfortunately, because as many animation historians, critics, and whatnot will tell you, the 1950s Popeye cartoons were usually the bottom of the barrel as far as that particular series is concerned. I guess the one good thing is that it's only uphill from there, so, nothing could disappoint me anymore, right? Anyway, tossing the 1950s Popeye cartoons aside, I've gotta say, so while I said that the public domain tapes didn't hold the best of what the Fleischers had to offer, for the famous studio shorts, it was the opposite case in that the best of what the famous studios had to offer, or at least half of the best, because the other half would be the Popeye cartoons that were still good in the 40s, but also largely under copyright still. But yeah, the novel tunes, the early Caspers and early Little Audreys, the Little Lulus, their output was pretty solid, at least in its first 8 years of existence. Now, as I say this, I just want to make one thing clear. I am not praising Paramount or cheering them on for booting Max and Dave out. Let's be real. Paramount played a huge part in screwing Max and Dave over. Obviously, that wasn't the only factor, but it was a large part. Let's just say that there's a reason that one of Max Fleischer's colleagues tried convincing him to leave Paramount in the mid-30s, but unfortunately, he did not budge, and even more unfortunately, he paid for that, being outed from his own studio, essentially. Any credit for why the famous studio shorts were a step up from the Fleischer's final 4 years were mostly due to the talent that the Fleischers have nurtured. So basically the likes of, say, Seymour Nightel, Izzy Sparber, Dave Tendlar, and the like. It's really just a brain trust and just them trying to figure out how to move on without the Fleischers, and I guess being able to adapt accordingly. That's where much of the credit, I would say, comes from. Unfortunately, that steam would run out in late 1950 onwards, but we'll have plenty of opportunities to cover their downfall. But for now, let's start by watching one of the early high points in 1949's novel tune, Hep Cat Symphony. Alright, headphone in, and here we go, starting now. I love the novel tune theme, in case I haven't mentioned it before. Well, of course I haven't mentioned it before, because this is the first novel tune we're covering here on Toon Chest. Oh, and it's also worth mentioning, if you're noticing how nice this print looks so far. So I'm combining two prints on YouTube for this cartoon here. One is, of course, this nice print that you're seeing here that was taken from a recording of a French Channel 5, which apparently aired the 1940s novel tunes fairly often back in the day. I think Channel 5, or this Channel 5 is a French channel, but someone below in the comments can correct me if otherwise. The other print that I'm combining this cartoon with is a black and white print, which actually has the full ending cue intact. So, yeah, just combining these two together to try to recreate the viewing experience as much as feasible as I like to do here on Toon Chest. Well, I guess whatever side of the musical war you're on here is, I guess depends on your tastes. Oh yeah, and this cat here is, it's proto-catnip, basically. So, yeah, the cat that was frequently against Herman the Mouse from 1947 to 1950 was this very cat right here. But then from Mice meeting You in late 1950 and onwards, the cat's fur changed to red-orange and became officially catnip from there on. I gotta say, though, they're both pretty good, so guess let the war unfold. And hey, we get good music and we get some funny slapstick as a bonus, so no one loses in this particular musical war. These mice here prove that they're more than capable of handling a proto-catnip without Herman. I mean, look at these mice. They're doing the best. They're able to continue their concert no matter what, while physically abusing proto-catnip. It's, well, again, they're more than capable. They don't need Herman every short. Maybe it's just Herman's family that's just dumb, I guess. Maybe that's why they needed Herman's help all the time. But these mice aren't related to Herman, so I don't know. All I know is that I'm enjoying the performance and I'm enjoying the slapstick. And that's what I call a musical finish. Actually, it's kind of premature because we haven't even reached the grand finale yet.
Hubba, hubba, why didn't I get hip to this before?
That cat's voice, or Proto-Catnip's voice changed just then. I could have sworn he had Sid Raymond's voice just a few scenes ago.
Shut up! What's your long hairs?
Now here he's Jackson Beck's voice. Jackson Beck, by the way, voiced Pluto. This is the grand finale that we're talking about. I guess the moral of the story is to not mess with musical mice, because I mean, if you know anything about famous studio cartoons, it's basically they're prototypes of Itchy from Itchy and Scratchy. I mean, well, technically, a lot of the inspiration for Itchy and Scratchy came from Herman and Catnip after all, but yeah, mice in the famous studios cartoons are very violent. Anyway, that, folks, was Hep Cat Symphony, and yeah, as you can tell, I enjoyed it. Would I put this as, like, say, my best cartoon of all time? Maybe not. I give this a B. So, Hep Cat Symphony, I give a B. Not much to say, except I enjoyed it. I love the musical aspect, and just tying that around slapstick. Actually, as I say this, it kind of makes me think of a Donald Duck cartoon that was also released in 1949. Slide Donald Slide. Basically, in that one, Donald is trying to listen to the World Series while he's trying to battle with Spike the Bee, who wants to listen to classical music on the same radio Donald's listening to the World Series on. Needless to say, Hep Cat Symphony is much better than Slide Donald Slide. Yeah, in case you couldn't tell from the many community posts I made about this, I am not a big fan of the Donald versus Small Pint-Sized Animal cartoons that Jack Hanna was obsessed with for that period of time. But I'll have plenty of opportunities to dunk on that. But yeah, for this cartoon, I just enjoyed it all the way through. Doesn't matter whose side you were on in this story. I guess it depends what your taste in music is. But believe it or not, this cartoon here was submitted to the 1948 Oscars. Hep Cat Symphony was released early enough in 1949 that it could be submitted for consideration in the 1948 Oscars. And, well, there were two famous studio shorts that were actually submitted. One being Hep Cat Symphony. Again, obviously that didn't get nominated. But the other one that was submitted for screening was the screen song Bass Brawl, of all things. And guess which one that Seymour Keitel spent far more time trying to get the Oscars to buy into? That's right, Bass Brawl. And that, folks, gives us a slight insight as to why famous studios never had any of their cartoons nominated for an Oscar. Even Terry Toons had a nomination in 1958 with one of the Sydney cartoons, or the first of them, I believe. But point being, famous studios never got an Oscar, even though their output wasn't bad. But god damn, I mean, why would you promote a screen song over a cat and mouse cartoon for the 1948 Oscars? I mean, not only did the novelty of the screen song wear off by then, but I mean, that was also when Tom and Jerry was still dominating the Oscar wins. What chance would a screen song have during that period? I mean, you really dropped the ball on this one. Anyway, I will say this. I can understand the justification to bring back the screen songs in the late 40s. Respect it even. I mean, we basically got 4-minute cartoons with like 2 or 3 minutes that are dedicated to the bouncing ball segments of the screen songs. But yeah, no, I can understand why they were brought back. I mean, they do help save the studio money and be able to keep up, keep delivering the output that they are that they're scheduled to and all that stuff. I understand that, but if you really think that a screen song is worth more promoting for than, again, a very good cat and mouse cartoon like Hep Cat Symphony, maybe the curse of bad decisions from the Fleischer studios still plagued famous studios in their own way, and the lack of Oscar nominations is definitely proof of that. Anyway, enough rambling. I guess I've said enough of my piece. I will see you all next time. So, with that said, let's see. This is what happens when you film this late night. You just go in a circle and you don't know where the hell you're waving. So anyway, see ya, folks!